Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking way is that a gimme, right?
Welcome into Gas 52, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. It has been one full calendar year of your favorite morning drive program coming to you each and every Tuesday. Gas Morning Drive. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik, fresh off of a very quick trip in and out of New York City. And I know we're going to talk some UFC pay-per-view, but Jay, how was your trip?
It was good. Great to see you. A full year, huh?
Yeah.
Great.
This is 52. It's pretty crazy.
I love it. 52. I like how you go 52 is sort of the official full year, right? Because no weeks off, right? 52 weeks. Didn't take too many weeks off in this 52.
I think we had one.
That's
we had one
impressive.
because there was we had like a big old scheduling conflict.
So you're right. It was a very quick trip for me to New York City for UFC 322. The reason it was a quick trip, my brother got sick on the back end, but I got there Saturday, the day of the fight, which was kind of interesting and unique to sort of land the day of the fight and look at your phone and look at some of the gambling odds and be like, oh, wait, this is tonight. And, you know, we talked about this card being so stacked on paper, almost feeling a little bit like UFC 300 in a way. So I was geeked to get there day of. And the reason I went day of is because we were going to be in Brooklyn tonight going to the Celtics game, hoping to rub elbows with the head basketball coach, but my brother's too sick, so I came back to town so I could be in my chair to do the show with you. But UFC 322 was absolutely bananas. We could go a number of different ways. I assume you watched most of the card.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually kind of pissed at the general MMA handicapping community, to be quite honest with you. And I know my lead story was going to be, I think the Chiefs are screwed, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. As someone who made a significant wager on Zhang Li, and I don't want to out our group chat, but even at one point, Cody Merrow was like, I have to keep from putting a bag on Zhang Li. And then Valentina Shevchenko doesn't just beat her, absolutely dominates Zhang Li. And then we start to hear even during the fight, right? Smart guys like DC and Joe Rogan. I watched, I know part of the Anik podcast, the big gun, Brian Petrie. I love watching his stuff, that chubby Yinzer, right? I didn't hear one analyst, not one. I don't know, maybe Kenny Florian said it. I have no idea. Petrie seems like a good guy and can take a joke, so I made it a little fun. But Jay, I didn't hear one smart MMA analyst or somebody that knows way more than me even mention the size issue was going to be a problem for Zhang Li. Now, maybe because in her weight class, you look at her and she looks jacked. And even going into the octagon on Saturday night in MSG, I thought, wow, she still looks pretty sturdy. Doesn't look like the weight's really affecting her. And then all I hear about is size. Like I'm on a porn set. How did everyone miss the fact that the size was going to be a big factor in that fight?
I love that you went that way. I think it's an enormous point. And so before I make the point about the size in that fight, I want to rewind you to our show last week, right?
Yeah.
I was on the Anik and Florian podcast last week. I picked Jack Della Maddalena. And as soon as you showed me yoked Islam, you saw my face. I flipped my pick that moment.
Yep.
Not pick. I don't make picks. I don't bet MMA, right? So it doesn't matter but in that moment I was like, oh, no. And you talked about him putting the weight on the right way and the creatine, and it made a huge difference, obviously. And I thought Jack's advantage was going to be that physicality. Now, shifting to this female fight. Gresh, because I don't bet MMA, I don't have to watch everything, right? Even though I love the embeddeds and I love, so I'll tell you, I didn't see them face off a single time. So the first time I saw them physically is when they entered the octagon. And I swear to God, Gresh, if you were sitting next to me, I was like, oh my God, Zhang Weili's too small. Like, I couldn't believe the difference in size. That was my first rub before they even started engaging. I couldn't, and if I'm too loud, I'm fired up right now. I really couldn't believe it, Gresh, how small she was. And we could talk about that fight. I know there are a lot of people that thought it was a very boring fight. I'm on an island. I didn't. Dominance from the greatest female MMA fighter of all time, like that.
How can you hate how can you hate dominance? I'm with you. Like, okay, so they didn't stand up and bang, but what I saw was Tom Brady level type shit. Like, people who are like, oh my God, Brady's boring. All he does is win. Great. I love that. I'll take it. I thought the same thing for Shevchenko. I couldn't have come away more impressed. And there is no question anymore. There's Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, and then there's everybody else in every other weight class. With all due respect to great fighters like Joanna Jacek, and I know I fucked up her name, but
that's pretty good.
There's a lot of great fighters. Like Holly Holm is a legend, right? But I'm sorry, Valentina and Amanda Nunes, they're up here. And yes, Jay, I loved it. How can you hate watching greatness?
So I'm so glad you agree with me, right? We do agree a lot, and I don't hate that. But Chael Sonnen, I guess, ripped her on the post-fight show. My brother was saying Cody Merrow was bored out of his mind. Cody writes, UFC 322 was awesome until it wasn't, and it grinded to a halt. We were gifted with 5 of 6 finishes leading up to that, to that co-main event. And we can talk about the co-main event all day, but I'm glad you saw it the same way as I did. And Cody, you could put your face on the screen and talk about how bored you were. But if you don't want to do that, we could talk about Islam Makhachev all day, because he is on his way, in my opinion, to becoming the undisputed GOAT. Oh, God, I'm going to rant here with this solo. But when Khamzat Chimaev destroyed Duplessis, and some people were bored, for lack of a better word, you and I were on the other side of that too. Like, unbelievably enjoyed Khamzat Chimaev's dominance over Dricus Duplessis and Islam Makhachev to rise up 15 motherfucking pounds and big brother, the welterweight champion. Some of the looks on Jack Della Maddalena's face during that fight. And if you saw during the week, I thought I was being remedial, but they did a grip strength thing during the week, right? And Della Maddalena's like 118. And then Islam goes down, he gets out of the camera picture and he comes back up 166. And I was like, he is so strong in the clinch. He is so strong. It doesn't even matter. And got even stronger. And Dean Thomas, after the fight, says to me, he's like, did you see that grip strength exercise? And I'm like, I'm telling you, Islam's just different. Talk to me.
He is. And here's the other part of, I think, the secret sauce. For my money, Jay, for my money, Khabib Nurmagomedov is the best coach in MMA because of what he sees, right? Your boy Dean Thomas, I got a ton of respect for him, and that's a guy who's a great coach, makes great points during the fights. But when Khabib sees it, and so does Islam, and to me, that was when Khabib was a fighter, he had his dad in the corner who could see it, and Khabib could translate it, and then would stretch the hell out of people. Islam Makhachev is to the point now to where he can put a ham sandwich on your back and starve you. He's that good in terms of grappling, and he's got maybe the best guy in his corner who sees it, yells out instruction, and then boom, his fighter implements it. Bone, what do you got, babe?
Well, how's it going, guys?
How are you? Did you really think the Valentina fight was a snooze fest?
Well, I just thought it was one of those fights where I wish we could have gotten together after the third round and kind of come to a handshake agreement that we didn't need the last 10 minutes of the fight. I came away
but for MMA, for me, that's what gives Zhang Weili a fighting chance.
Frustrated from a better, because I expect.
You're on
I was
mute
frustrated
now, buddy.
As a better because I didn't feel like Weili came in prepared for the weight jump.
Well, you know what? And I think a part of the problem is when you look at Zhang Weili physically, she looks jacked. Her traps, right? Her traps are huge. Her quads are massive, but yet there was nothing that she could do. Now, maybe it's a wrestling issue. Okay. And Jay, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Maybe it's just straight up a grappling issue with Zhang Weili more than even the size. But
my thoughts are, if you want me to be honest, is I want to move back to the main event. If Cody wants to talk about how boring that was, but we touched on the co-main event. Your thoughts about Khabib is what I want to touch about. I could not agree with you more about what you were saying about Khabib as being the best coach in MMA. Gresh, every time Islam threw a leg kick on, it was as if Khabib was celebrating a knockout. That was so important to him. And that was probably such a big part of the game plan in terms of neutralizing Jack. The leg kicks were so clean. And Belal Muhammad, when he finished Sean Brady in Abu Dhabi a couple years back, Belal said, he's like, I don't think I finished Sean Brady if Khabib is not in my corner. So I just wanted I wanted to pile on that point you made about Khabib, because I think it is a very good one. And I think you can't overstate the magnitude of having maybe the greatest mixed martial artist of all time with the greatest coach in his corner. I'm with you.
Right. And it's the whole vision and seeing it, right? Coaching is anticipation as much as it is vision, especially in MMA. And look, Makhachev is, it's too bad Khabib hung it up, because I know they would never fight. But seeing those two go against each other would be a pile of fun. It might be boring for a lot of people because it would be too grappling based, or maybe they'd be afraid to shoot on one another. But I think Khabib wins. Yeah, you don't really?
Well,
you think
I don't know if Cody Islam's always been the guy. And ask Khabib's late father. Islam's always been the guy. But
what's next? What's next for him now? Now that he's a dual champion, what's next for Islam in your opinion, Jay?
Welterweight is very clogged. I thought I saw Dana White mouth "you're next" to Michael Morales. It wouldn't shock me. I think Sean Brady may have been undeniable had he been able to get it done. Huge setback for Sean Brady. Huge moving night. I think a lot of guys make sense. I think about Belal Muhammad and Gary fighting this weekend. I know we're going to get to that fight, but I think it is wide open right now, except all these welterweight contenders looking up at Islam Makhachev. I wish you the absolute best of luck against that man, because he looks completely unbeatable.
He does, and that weight is there to stay. Like, that's not going to be
exactly
that he put it on the right way, and you could see. Again, I go back to, I love the relationship between Islam and DC. And when DC looked at Islam and said, "You're a weight bully," he said that to him like a couple of fights ago. You're a weight bully, and now you see Islam, who probably could carry 185 before a fight. But that heft, that muscle, that 170 is going to stay on.
Hey, real quick.
I was going to hit you with a real quick, but go ahead.
Before we go to topics, a couple of those knockouts we have to just
that's where I was going to, was the card was, even if you didn't know the names, the results were fantastic, right? I left the room, Jay, I went to the garage. And I came back in, and Benoit Saint Denis was celebrating. In a blink, man. And I was so wrong on that. I thought Beneil Dariush was going to be okay. He got smoked. Sweet Jesus.
So, Cody, I was looking for the text that you sent, but Cody sent a text. And forgive me, Cody, I'm not trying to out you, but something to the extent like, at some point Beneil Dariush is going to get old, and I want to be ahead of it, Cody said, right? I don't know what that line closed at, but Dariush was maybe at one point almost a 2-1 favorite. Am I accurate on that, Cody?
No, I think so.
Because, gosh, I don't bet MMA, so I don't peek. I keep saying that. I sound like I do bet MMA. But no, I don't look at these lines that much. So after the fact, I found out that Benoit Saint Denis was like plus 170 at one point. I couldn't close plus 150. That shocks me, Bone. I hope you cash.
Yeah, I was way on the wrong side of that. And I'm with you, Jay. You don't want to like pile on Sean Brady and make it seem like, things are derailed. But man, oh man, that win might have set him up for a title fight. And now I don't think it's get to the back of the line, but it's fight to stay in the middle of the championship line. Is that fair to say?
Perfectly put. it is unbelievable how many guys he's behind. And my brother John always says, if you're in a title eliminator of sorts or about to punch your championship opportunity and you lose, it's a 2-year setback. I would argue for Sean Brady, it's longer than that, given what you said about the pack in front of him. You know, Belal Muhammad as a 2-1 underdog here against Ian Gary. If Belal takes care of Ian Gary as a former champion, he should be in the conversation as well, regardless of the style, regardless of what the promotion may think of Carlos Prates and the excitement, you know, knocking guys out with a jab. That was insane, by the way, that Leon Edwards.
That really was.
Laughing going to the ground. Man.
Yeah, that was a very quick and sudden knockout. But yeah, it was a hell of a card. Bo Nickel had a nice showing in the main event of the prelims there. That was good for him on a nice little bounce back. Yep. Kind of to be expected. I mean, I don't want, they didn't put him in there against the bum, but you figured that Bo Nickel was going to bounce back, and Aaron Blanchfield also on the undercard in the prelims, kind of getting it done. So
I'm glad you brought her up, and forgive. Okay, we can go. We're not too tight on time. UFC.
No, we're way good. Hey, people love UFC.
22 deserves what we're giving it. And Cody Merrow again. Blanchfield was his lock of the night, unless I'm mistaken. And Cody, one thing I want to just share with you as well as Gresh. I was so happy to see the look on Erin Blanchfield's face after getting the job done there, because she's really young. She was on this championship track. I believe it was Manon Fior, Cody, who sort of let her know who was boss, if I'm not mistaken. Or that was who was the loss? Well, yeah, Manon Fior. So I guess to see the human emotion, that is one of the benefits in sitting right there, to see that human emotion. It was a really big win for Erin Blanchfield. Tracy Cortez is a huge, huge star fan favorite, and Erin Blanchfield now is right back in the mix.
So I think we kind of forget, to your point. I'm glad you brought up Aaron Blanchfield's age, because there aren't many John Joneses who at 21 or 22, right? Mm-hmm. Or I forget I think it's Raul Rosas, the Kiwi guy. He's isn't he like 20 years old or something like that, it right. Chase Hooper was young, now starting to. I think the real special ones are the ones who could come in and look like a 10-year pro at 21 years old. But most people need time to kind of grow and mature a little bit, literally get knocked down on their ass and get back up and kind of figure their way in MMA. So I'm kind of glad you said that, because Blanchfield's got a bright future, had a hell of a bunch of fights already, and already has a big resume. But to your point, should be around for a long time. And I think every once in a while, we got to give the young athlete a little grace to be able to grow. Like Bo Nickel, to me, needed to lose to get 100%. Better. And that's 100%. What happened, right? And he's not young per se, but young in terms of his UFC career. But he's 29 years old, processes things different than, say, a 21 or a 22-year-old. So, I think we got to every once in a while take a step back and remember that, I'm the stepdad of an almost 24-year-old. Yep. Right. And I know how I react with him. And if I reacted every athlete that way, then I'd be, pulling what's left of my hair out.
And real quick, Blanchfield, right? You can look up at Mackenzie Dern, who's a grappler who was not a good striker, not even a good striker, and became a very solid striker enough to win a championship. So before we move on to football.
Yeah, and there's
go ahead.
There's a Mackenzie Dern photo of her in a blue dress out there on the interwebs that is just scrumptious. Go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew.
I'll leave it at
looking at. So Belal Muhammad, my brother, fighting this weekend against Ian Gary. Ian Gary minus 250, Belal Muhammad plus 205. And it is just fascinating, because the result of this fight is going to determine a lot. And what I'll tell you is that, Belal, I think, left some things to be desired in terms of his game plan against Jack Della Maddalena. And I'm sure as he sat and watched Islam Makhachev, Hamzat Chimaev him and hold him to the ground for 25 minutes, if you will, I'm sure there were some thoughts there. So I'll be interested to see what Belal Muhammad's game plan is. He looks mean and sucked out and as if he's in a very dark place, and I like him being in that spot.
Yeah, that's my problem, and why I can't trust Belal from a betting standpoint in this spot, because I thought someone who is as mentally tough and structured as he is, he wouldn't get sucked into trying to knock someone out versus playing to his strengths. And he allowed that to happen in, of all things, a championship fight, which was very shocking for me, given what you have told me about Belal, with just observing the guy and how he seems to be, when he's locked in, he's the kind of guy who's really locked into me. And yet he succumbed to trying to knock a guy out. And if I know I'm getting the guy before that title fight who's going to play to his strengths, then I really like his chances. But if it's going to turn into, hey, I dotted him early, and now I'm going to show everybody that I can knock him out, I don't like that Belal in this fight. And I can't trust from a betting standpoint to think that won't come out again. And by the way, that's human nature for, I think, a lot of people. So maybe it's me putting too much on the mentality of Belal that he was above doing something like that. And I just wonder if he tags him early, does that happen again here?
Well, he's in a very comfortable spot as an underdog where Vegas and everyone else is doubting him. But I'll be
I'm sure. Yeah, I can see Belal rallying around that.
Let's fucking go, baby. I'm gonna be fired up Saturday afternoon. A little day tickle.
Yeah, I like this. Big Spivak is on the card. I love big Sergey Spivak.
So we come to you guys Tuesday, 11 a.m. Please follow us at Gas Morning Drive. So the Patriots Thursday night game feels like a while ago, does it not?
Oh, dude, it does. This was really a mini bye. A lot of guys got out of town. I know that locally yesterday I was seeing on social media that Steph Diggs was having a charitable event, I believe it was yesterday, and kind of scheduled in accordance with this is a wonky part of the schedule for the Patriots. So they play Thursday, then they're going to play Sunday, and then it's Monday Night Football before they go on their long bye. So it's weird that they get a couple extra days in here. But Jay, just in following up here, it feels like Vrabel really does understand when and how to back off these guys, kind of gave them the ability to just go sort of reset for the weekend. And I heard him on radio a little bit yesterday, and they were like, basically Vrabel was asked on the radio, what do you make of, everybody's got some negativity swirling around the team. We're saying you haven't beat anybody. And Vrabel just goes, we don't care about any of that. He's like, literally, he goes, I am generally aware of what you're talking about. He's like, because I have to give press conferences. He goes, but my team is unaffected by this. And I thought that was the best word or phrase when he said, my team is unaffected by this. I hope they stay heartless. I don't want them getting too high or too low.
Great stuff. And regardless of whether or not Mike Vrabel ever wins a Super Bowl in New England as the head football coach, he to me, at 47 years old, who's been watching this league for a long time, and I know more about the intricacies of the Patriots because I follow them more closely than other teams, but he's literally the perfect coach. All the best things about Belichick he has, and all the worst things he has none of,
Right.
Did you happen to catch him on the post-game show with Drake May on Thursday Night Football?
I did a little bit, yes.
Okay, so I feel like I know Gresh well enough that maybe he has some things that maybe he's going to make to think. Like a cynical tone. No. Let me go. Carissa Thompson was outstanding. I thought she pulled amazing things out of Vrabel and Drake May. Yeah, see, I know you didn't like it, but regardless of what you think of those post-game shows, regardless of what you think, all the football players sitting there didn't pull good stuff. She was outstanding. She pulled stuff out of them about their own relationship. Drake May said things. He was like talking about Vrabel, be happy that he's part of his life. There's a warmth there. And to me, them playing for one another, Vrabel allowing them to be happy in the moment. Nowadays, there's a lot, everyone wants to be grateful, and we should be grateful of everything we have. And Vrabel allows them to be in this moment and feel joy and be happy and live this life. And he's not afraid to say how happy he is that he made the decision to come here. And I just think there's a positivity that is making it so much more fun to be a Patriot than it was before.
In knowing, I think I've said this here before. When I was working in Boston, we made a little run to try to get Josh McDaniels on as a weekly guest, and it flamed out for various reasons. But one of the things he had talked about privately with someone that I know is the family element, right? kids are getting older, like especially for Josh McDaniels. The kids are getting older. They're aware. They have opinions now. They're going to voice them, right? Vrabel's got, 5 kids, and one of them isn't Tyler the one who played at BC almost like 25 years old?
He's like Drake May's age. It's
yeah.
perfect, you know?
It is. It is. And there's the whole different kind of relatability. I also think too, Jay, when you walk in the room with credibility the way Vrabel does, but you have the ability to convey information to them where it's digestible and there's a level of credibility behind it, I really do believe. Look, I don't think you have to be a player to be a great coach, but when things start to go bad, then, and it hasn't happened for Vrabel yet, that level of credibility that you played, you went through this, you've coached through this. I think there is kind of like an extra layer of connection and credibility when it goes good, right? Because here's the thing, a lot of those guys that are in that room, 2 of the people who could lead them, who have actually been to a Super Bowl, are Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel. Yep. And Vrabel did it as a player and now trying to do it again here. And there's that extra layer of coaching credibility that kind of goes with it, to where when Belichick used to walk in a room, people used to pucker. When Vrabel walks in the room, people sit up, but they kind of pay attention because they want to hear what he wants to say, but they're not scared shitless of the guy. Like Fourier had the great line when Bill got fired that it was like, oh, ding dong, the witch is dead. It's okay to come out now. That there were people there that were in fear of saying anything to the guy. There's respect for Vrabel, but there isn't that fear of, oh, I can't go up and talk to him.
Yes, and that extends to the players as well, which I think is an advantage. I'm with you. You know, Michael Hawley and Mike Florio do a show on Fridays on PFT, and I absolutely love Mike Florio, whether you do or not. And one of them was just talking. They always are. A lot of people talk about how smart Mike Vrabel is and how great it is that your head coach is smarter than you. I think it was Florio that made that point, and that he really is smart. It matters. We talked about Mercedes Lewis last year in Chicago with Nick Eberflus, whatever his fucking name is, coaching them, you know, and him just not coaching. Like Caleb Williams needs to be coached. Mercedes Lewis was making that point. And so I just think it's a huge advantage having, he's just so well-rounded as a coach. You know, his brain, you just talked about the player component, and then he's tough. He literally he's a 5-tool player as a coach, man. It's just unbelievable.
I'll tell you, Jay, what impresses me most about Vrabel. He didn't skip coaching steps.
Yeah.
So when you're a former player, you can skip right? If you were a former quarterback, there's a great chance you might get elevated to offensive coordinator before being a quarterback's coach, right? So there's steps that you can skip. When Vrabel got done, he went to college, right? Went on Urban Meyer's step, went to Ohio State, learned recruiting and kind of how that whole deal works, then ended up going to the NFL in Houston, ultimately became the defensive coordinator, then got hired away to go be a head coach. There were no skip steps there, right? It wasn't Mike Vrabel went to, a Division III school and they gave him the head coaching job and then he just blew doors from there. No, he was an assistant that recruited and went on the road. He went and did a lot of the bullshit that these guys have to do. He's just one of the few who's not, $1 million in debt by the time he gets there and reaches the pinnacle to where he really starts to make a bunch of money. And that's really what I respect about Vrabel. He had a lot of institutional knowledge, but he went searching for more. Yeah, how about that? In February on whether or not the Browns offered him a position, he said no, but I would have listened. If you're the Browns, you let that guy get out the door while you're still fondling yourself thinking that Kevin Stefanski's still a good coach.
I'd love to hear the soundbite and the way he said, but I would have listened, because to me, that just is what it is, moving on. I don't care anymore. I think Patriots are very lucky, and I think that they have a just tremendous chance to win a championship in the next several years if they can stay healthy. We obviously know Milton Williams out with the ankle now. We'll get to that as we look ahead. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have a big injury at some point. Oh, I don't think you're going to see Milton Williams for the postseason, by the way. But as we look ahead at this schedule, right, happy Jamar Chase isn't playing Sunday, Gresh.
How about that, huh? In a year of, and you need these when you have a special season. We can go back and look at the Tom Brady years, and there were a lot of games they played where this guy was out or that guy was out, and it gave him a little bit of an advantage.
Yep.
This is seismic.
I agree.
This is earthquake level stuff right here. First of all, what a dumbass from Jamar Chase. That's just stupid, right? I mean, and the whole, he tried to make the case that, whatever it was water or something like that. There was no way he was getting around this one. But Jay, I tweeted out last night, and let me ask you, the Patriots put together a game plan, at least on a Monday, thinking that Jamar Chase was going to play. So do you now just treat T. Higgins like Jamar Chase and execute the game plan? Or do you kind of completely tear it up and start over because they're really down to one wide receiver that scares the hell out of you?
Well, if you're smart, when you did your game plan yesterday on Monday, you probably were saying, I don't think Jamar Chase is playing. It was pretty obvious after seeing the spit. So hopefully they already game planned for it, but you don't have two Christian Gonzalez's, right? And so the idea now that Gonzalez can lock up on Higgins and not have to think about number one is just a massive advantage in terms of just the trickle down for the rest of the roster. So ultimately, I think to your point, I think it is seismic because the Bengals are better at home. And you can be sure the Patriots are vulnerable. Their last few weeks have not been perfect despite emerging victorious. So I think it's absolutely huge. And I think it moves a needle for me. And, when we looked at this sort of stretch of games, you got Giants, Jets, Bengals, that Bengals game scared me a little bit. Jamar Chase out, it scares me far less.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I think when Joe Burrow went out, that game got way less scary, even though I think that we have a healthy respect for a guy like Flacco. I had to pull some plays for TV this week, and I got to tell you, I'm so happy that Chase is out because there were plays to be made from the Jets. Like, I picked out a second down play and a couple of third down plays where if it's a quarterback other than Justin Fields, who's completely missing guys on two of those, and one, it was a dime and it went through the receiver's hands. There are some things that the Patriots do need to tighten up, and we're lucky that it was Justin Fields. Now, from a wide receiver talent standpoint, is that kid Yoshivas going to be the dude that's going to kill you, or the tight ends? I think without Jamar Chase, the Bengals are just so much easier to defend now. And we forget that defensively, the Bengals, let me steal Cam Ward's line. Bengals are ass, and they have no Hendrickson.
They're one of the, this is not hyperbole. The Bengals, I should have pulled a tweet. They're one of the absolute worst defenses in NFL history statistically. And the eye test as well. We talk about it every week. It's unbelievable. And I know we're going to get to our podium picks later, and perhaps one of us will be on one side in that game. But bro, they are so bad defensively. The Patriots are not one of my selections this week, but it was so difficult for me not to play the Patriots this week because of Jamar Chase, and that Bengals defense is all world bad.
Yeah, I got some big thoughts on it a little bit later too. I got this from my friends at ESPN. Patriots 9-2. They went 4-13. With a win this week, New England will become just the third team in the last 25 years to win 10 of its first 12 games after having 4 or fewer wins the prior season. That's a little wordy. But basically, to go from 4 wins to double digits. It happened, hey, Jay, how about it? It happened in 2016 with the Cowboys, and they lost in the divisional round. In 2019, it happened with the 49ers. They went to the Super Bowl. So even if we're meeting in the middle, is maybe the happy medium, given the year that the Patriots are having. I don't want to say expectation. It might feel like a lot, but I mean, is it crazy to think if you land in the conference championship game that's in between the two teams who did it prior to you in terms of having the complete turnaround of a season? Oh my God, I think I'd sign up for that right now.
Honestly, I would sign up for almost anything at this point, given I did have high expectations for this team. Unfortunately, Gresh, I think the regular season, even with the loss of Milton Williams, I think they're going to have a very, very great finish to the regular season. I don't think they're going to throw up all over themselves. It's not going to shock me if they get to 13 wins. 12 might be more likely. Buffalo may be coming on a little bit, but even if they get to 12 wins, Gresh, we've talked about this. The NFL is very deep this year, and there's a little bit of a cluster there, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the Patriots to emerge out of the AFC. I think that any playoff matchup they have is going to be exceedingly difficult, even if they have a bye, and if you have a bye, you win one playoff game, and then if you win that, you host the AFC Championship game. I think it's going to be very challenging for the Patriots, despite them being, I believe the schedule we talked about last week, that schedule is starting to come back. The schedule is part of the reason they are where they are right now, and I can't deny that.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's happened to the Patriots in years past. It was really one of the amazing things when you stop and think about it. The Patriots are playing a first place schedule every year with Tom Brady. Like this year, they're playing the bum schedule because they were a bum team last year. That's one of the crazy things about Brady is that he played against a first place schedule every year. To
Yes.
Denver, right? Because it's really about the number one seed, is it not? So Denver the rest of the way, at Washington, at Vegas, home for Green Bay, home for Jacksonville, at Kansas City. This is Denver.
Oh, okay.
The rest of the way.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you mentioned the Patriots in terms of the way they're going to close.
Yep. Go ahead.
Patriots close Denver closes arguably with 4 playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
Packers, Jaguars, Chiefs, Chargers. Even if the Chiefs might end up missing the playoffs, they're still going to be that's on Christmas night in Kansas City. They're going to be all wound up. So to your point, relative to say the number one seed, New England, a much easier road to get to 13 wins than say the Broncos. Those teams at the end of the year are going to be playing for something. The Jets in Miami at the end of the year aren't going to be playing for anything. So really for New England, I'm glad the last game of the year isn't against Buffalo. It actually works out to where you want to play bad teams in the end of the regular season because there's the predictability of who they're going to play. You're not going to get hey, we're just either going to shut it down or the reverse. You want to shut it down, but the team on the other side's playing everybody because they'd like to make the playoffs type situation. That ain't happening at the end of this year for New England.
I think we're going to know a lot more about this team after they've played Buffalo and Baltimore. I think that they have not been tested. I think that I've talked a lot about their margin for error, that they were good enough where they have a margin for error every week, that they can throw up a little bit on the field and still win. They even had some of that against the Jets. The Jets had some moments where that could have been a one possession game, and this league is bananas. So things can happen, but ultimately I think we'll know a lot more when we see them match up physically against the Baltimore Ravens late in the season, when Baltimore very much will need a win, because that test for me, win or lose, will tell me a lot about if they can really stand up with the great teams in the league.
Well, and here's the thing about Baltimore. They're likely, Jay, going to be playing New England, riding an 8-game winning streak. They're on a 4-game win streak right now, and Lamar's back, but they got Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals. That should be 4 wins for Baltimore, given the way they're constructed. And then they play New England in what would be a massive New England coming off the massive game against Buffalo, playing Baltimore, who might be on an 8-game win streak and trying to just play their way into the playoffs. You're right. That's going to be juicy. Somebody's going to try to flex that into a different spot.
What's really interesting is going to be to see if New England plays Cincinnati this weekend, and unless I'm mistaken, 4 days later, Joe Burrow potentially is suiting up and playing against the Ravens that night. Now, this defense is so bad for Cincinnati that honestly, I'm not sure. If they lose to the Patriots this week, do you really play Joe Burrow? If you're Cincinnati? I mean,
I think you kind of have to. Plus, the owner is going to be itching to get him back out there because he's paying him.
3-7. I'll tell you right now, I don't know where his health is right now, and he's going to want to be back out there. And maybe, maybe this division is that crazy, but I guess you have to. I
think the owner is going to want him out there at 35 or 40 million, whatever it is.
Well, given how the division looks, you have to.
Hey, here, this was going to be my lead, and I know we jumped right into MMA. I think Kansas. You know what? One of the guys that I do TV with down the street here on WPRI, one of the news anchors, he said to me, "Oh, I Kansas City ain't making the playoffs," and I'm like, "Listen to you. He's an Italian guy." I said, "That's like saying the best tomatoes come from Ireland," and he like flipped me off, and he was like, "Just wait." And goddamn, he might be right. At 5-5 right now, this Kansas City team, they still have to deal with Indianapolis. They have the Texans, who are at least playing some good defense. The Chargers are not going to be an easy out now, and they still have Denver along the way as well. If Kansas City has lost too many tiebreakers, Jay, they now have to leap teams. So they need either a straight win streak, or they're going to have to catch, the break of all breaks to be able to get in.
Well, I think it all comes down to this weekend, and I'll get to that in our podium picks, but I do believe it all comes down to this weekend. I do not look at that as a daunting schedule for Kansas City. It's been very daunting leading up to this point, but it absolutely softens up to the point where they're a more complete football team than a lot of the teams they will face down the stretch, despite some of those teams having the ability to beat them any given Sunday. I felt as though I didn't know how good the Buffalo Bills were for several weeks. Maybe I'm starting to find out. I don't want to react too much to last week. I still don't know how good I think the Chiefs are. I think this is a spot coming back home after, Denver on the road. That's a tough place to play. We'll get into it more in podium picks, but I think this week's game determines everything in terms of the Chiefs' playoff future in 2025.
This feels like the Chiefs version of Patriots 2019, where it kind of all sort of crashed a little bit. Now, the difference was...
That's interesting.
When it kind of crashed in 20, because the Patriots weren't a bad team that year, right?
No.
10-6, and that was the Vrabel team that came in and had the Logan Ryan last Brady throw in a
Brady was
uniform.
like moping at the podium when they were 10-0.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. He was the most miserable 8-0 quarterback on the planet, right? No question. I'm not saying it's that for Kansas City, because then the band kind of broke up, right? Now they're still good. They're probably going to lose Kelsey, right? Because he's going to go make $1 billion babies, and who would blame the guy? But you don't have Tyreek Hill. You still have the head coach and the quarterback, but are you going to be able to continue to rebuild around them? Say Kansas City finds a way in. This feels like 2019. Except instead of it being the end of Brady, it's kind of the end of Kelsey, which is a big piece to take out of that lineup.
I might dispute how big a piece it is, because I think he's been declining and been far less consistent. But that plus 150 to make the playoffs, no, Gresh, I like that line, regardless of thinking maybe they got a shot, right? I mean, do you think 10-7 gets you in? I know it's too early to say it, right? But
10-7 might get you in. The problem for Kansas City is they lose too many tiebreakers to those other teams that might be 10-7, right?
Them in. Exactly.
Won't get them in. That's why I say they're screwed. It's not that they're maybe not going to win 9 or 10 games. They will probably have a playoff-worthy record. The problem is they've lost too many head-to-heads now, and that's the big issue for them. They do have the win over Baltimore, but they've lost to Jacksonville. They've got complications in the division. I'm looking at their, what are they in the conference, right? They're 2-4 in the conference. That's almost a death blow when it comes to tiebreakers.
I agree. And that's why so much I think Gresh comes to this weekend, because if you get to 6-5, I think they can absolutely finish the remainder of the season with only one loss. Do you know what I mean?
You want to just head into it, brother? Let's just let's get into the podium picks.
So for those of you that don't know, we began this in week 7, which is miraculous how well my brother Andrew Gresh is doing. So we pick 3 games against the spread, podium picks, gold, silver, and bronze. So it's our 3 best bets against the spread Tuesday morning, Jesus, right? Where the gold is our best bet, silver is our second best, bronze is the third. 3 points for the gold picks, 2 points for the silver picks, 1 point for the bronze pick. From week 7 through week 11, 5 weeks, Gresh is 11-4 against the spread. Hats fucking off. That's impressive. 24 points. I am 6-9 against the spread. 11 points. Last week, you hit all 3 bets. Seahawks plus 2.5, I think it was. Giants plus 7.5. It's a nice hook there. In San Francisco was your gold medal selection. well done. Hopefully you are all tailing Gresh. Yeah, I have not been very lucky, but what I will say, we went head to head in that Rams-Seattle game, and I'll tell you right now, like, betting this sport against the spread, whatever. I was on an island on the Rams. Everyone I talked to likes Seattle. I'm the one talking about Sam Darnold's turnovers all week. He throws 4 picks. The Rams win the game. It is what it is, losing that by a hook. But what I want to say, Gresh, is that my brother and I did a show where we picked 5 games against the spread on a Tuesday. And it can be tough to do that, as you know. I'm sure some of these, by the end of the week, we're questioning them. And there is some luck involved in picking this league against the spread. But for me, when my brother and I were on the same side, like you and I were last week on the 49ers, both of our gold medal selections were the 49ers minus 2.5. And I'm not sitting here trying to say like, oh, weak stuff. But like, I do think when you have, if you're watching this show, we appreciate you at Gas Morning Drive. But I think if you have 2 people that are on the same side and it's our best bet of the week, both of us, and then it starts and finishes like that, that felt good, I guess, for the show,
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I think that you can compare us to other products that are out there, and I think that you will find the handicapping advice, or at least thought process, that you're going to get on this program is as good or maybe better than anybody out there when it's all said and done. And thank you, friend. I appreciate you showing me some love for being on a heater.
11-4 against the spread. Yes, certainly there's a little bit of luck involved, but there's a lot of skill involved in isolating the 3 games. And what I'll tell you, and we'll get to your first selection, last week when I looked at the board, and last week was a good week for me in my sports betting account, but last week when I looked at the board overall, I liked the look of the board. That's what happens to me in this league. Some weeks I love the board. This week coming up, I hate the board. It was very difficult for me to come up with 3 selections. I had my gold medal selection that I'll get to later completely wiped out. I went for a run and my gold medal selection, I didn't like it anymore by the time I got home. So anyway, before you give us your bronze medal selection,
yes, sir,
for those of you who don't know, the punishment for losing this that I will have, because this lead is so fucking big after such a few weeks. And it's not like I'm doing that bad. I've had some real bad beats to be sitting 6-9, but the punishment is a power hour, 1 shot of beer every minute for the entire show for an hour. That'll be fun to watch me, because I'll be feeling pretty nice by minute 41, if you will. So anyway,
oh no, we'll have to make sure you have a handler that day.
But hey, I'm trying to go 3-0 this week, as you are. So let's stay hot. Gresh, if you're going to tail one of us, tail Gresh. Give us your bronze medal selection for week 12.
Brother, I am going to Thursday Night Football, where where points have been at a premium. Did you see the Buffalo injury report yesterday? I think there were 16 or 17 guys on there. And I know it was the whole, we would have done a walkthrough on Monday because they're playing on Thursday. So give me a team that could play a little bit of defense. The Texans plus 5.5. Buffalo's defense has been leaky. I don't think the short week and the injuries are going to set up well for the Buffalo defense. I don't think Houston wins this game, Jay, but I think Houston plus the 5.5 feels pretty comfortable against a Buffalo team that's been giving it up. And those short week circumstances, I think, really end up evening the odds here, no pun, when it comes to these 2 teams playing against each other.
It's interesting. I think one of the things in handicapping the NFL that's very important is to not overreact week to week. And Buffalo looked to be all the rage, and clearly you're not overreacting to that. I would guess CJ Stroud is not playing. Would you agree with that as we sit here on a Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I kind of think so. But is there a big difference between CJ Stroud and Harris or that kid, Davis Mills this year?
Well, in my opinion, I probably would say yes. For me, I guess what I'm saying to you is if CJ Stroud does play, it would not surprise me to see that line move back a little bit and see you maybe get a better number than the betting public, if you will.
Gotcha. Here's the thing about Buffalo too, Jay, quickly. I think they're in, we just need to win the game mode, right? They don't care. They're not worried about style points. They're not worried about which side of the ball comes up big. I think for Buffalo, they're just literally find a way to win the game mode. And that normally means you're kicking a field goal late or something like that. And Buffalo, again, they looked real nice last week against Tampa, but their defense has been helter-skelter too. And then they still give up 30 plus in the win. Like they scored 40, so the 32 don't look that bad. But if Houston scores 32, they're probably winning the game.
Oh, I mean, Sean Tucker running all over them. I'm telling you right now, there are certainly paths to victory for the
Yeah.
Texans, not only covering the spread. All right, my third best bet of week 12. I'm going Chiefs -3 hosting the Colts. Straight desperation, Gresh. Colts coming in off a bye. I understand it, but we talked about this earlier. I don't think the Chiefs make the playoffs if they don't win here. This really feels, because their schedule isn't that tough as we talked about. This is probably the toughest game on their schedule to an extent. It probably is, but you're still a favorite. You're still at home. So the Chiefs. That late game loss at Denver, it is what it is. Denver's a pretty damn good defense, tough place to play. But the Chiefs 4-1 against the spread at home. And we talked about the schedule lightening up a little bit. I just think if you go 5-6, you're going to have to win 6 straight to get in. I think they need that margin for error, and I think they know it. And I think that they are good enough to beat Indianapolis at home, despite Indianapolis being great. And we see teams sometimes off a bye. You know, I don't mind betting against a team coming off a bye that had a bunch of momentum, and then they take a little bit of a week off against a desperate championship team organization that didn't necessarily shit the bed last week. It's pretty tough. Their schedule really has been brutal. They've won most of the games they were supposed to win. So I'm sort of blindly playing the Chiefs -3 here as my bronze medal selection. It's not going to surprise me at all if the Chiefs lose and this season ends on Sunday at Arrowhead.
Yeah, the Chiefs have lost to what would be right now 5 playoff teams: the Chargers, the Eagles, the Jaguars, the Bills, and the Broncos. The problem is with their wins, they beat Baltimore when they were beat up, and they beat Detroit. So against the good competition, Kansas City has just lost close, maybe more than everything else. A lot of, 3-point loss, 6-point loss, 7-point loss mixed in there. It's been a lot of close stuff. I think I will end up learning more about Indianapolis in this game than I will Kansas City. Because if Kansas City wins this one, it's the whole, hey, Custer's last stand, given the way they're built, they're supposed to do this. If Indianapolis goes out and wins by 2 touchdowns and Jonathan Taylor keeps running all over Kansas City, if Taylor has 3 tuds against KC, you might as well just, hand him the MVP trophy, because all the voters will wet their pants over that, because it would also be kind of knocking the Chiefs out at the same time. But I was almost with you on this, and I crossed it off because I just didn't have a good gut feeling on which Chiefs team was going to show. But if there is a team you're going to have faith in, I'm with you. It'd be Kansas City, because they have a lot of those old New England qualities in them.
Yeah, and I'm with you in terms of the Colts. I think this will tell us a lot about that football team coming off a bye, going into that environment. What's your second best pick, week 12?
I am going with the New England Patriots to smack around Cincinnati. Cincy's defense is not good. And I think the Patriots and their ability to run the ball, to play action, I'm going to pencil in the kid for 250 and maybe a touchdown or 2 at quarterback. And I just don't think Cincinnati in a big spot, Jay, is going to be able to stop New England. And I really believe, because I think the Patriots are tougher than Cincinnati and that weak Cincy defense, I think it's going to be a red zone run fest. Turn around, hand it to Henderson. If Ramondre gets back in there, turn around, hand it to him at the goal line. This is going to be we're going to bully you type game, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think Cincy could end up getting shit pumped. Honestly, I think this could end up being a 20-point win for New England.
I agree. I'm a little bit, it was almost in the reason I didn't put it in my 3 this week is because I'm a bitch and I didn't want to put my home team in there, if you want to know the truth. And after, I don't know. Sometimes I can be a little superstitious, I guess, in my old age, but I think they fucking rout Cincinnati. And I believe that Jamar Chase is what pushes you off the cliff. I just think that not having him out there makes them no way be able to stay within 10 points of this New England team. It makes me think that we are maybe mistaken for this not to be both of us gold medal selection this week. That Cincinnati defense, those Patriot fans that have not ingested a lot of that Cincinnati defense play football, fucking enjoy. They are so bad.
They're
They
bad.
look like a college team. It's hilarious.
And Vrabel against that dopey Zach Taylor, please, not even
Josh
not even
McDaniels
close.
calling plays against that defense. And Drake May, I mean, gosh, we could talk about Drake May every week. All right. My second best play this week, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers -6.5 versus the Panthers at home. Monday Night Football, I believe. Now, I've seen this go up to 7 in certain spots, but I'm sure 49ers fans that know what they're talking about are really happy to look up last week and see number 13 under center instead of Snack Jones, right? 19 out of 16, 19 out of 26, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. He's just so calm. He's nasty. He's an athlete. He's cooler than Mac Jones out there. I just think it gives the 49ers sort of a different belief. I think the 49ers are up against it this season from a championship contention standpoint. They're just so banged up ultimately. Bryce Young on the road, 4-17 in his career, but he's won his last 3 road games this year. That gave me a little bit of pause. I just think McCaffrey's going to want to show out with Rico Dowdle on the other side. And I like the mojo with this 49ers team, still trudging along. And to me, the Brock Purdy thing is significant. I really like Brock Purdy. You have certain guys that get forgotten sometimes a bit when they're injured, right? And Mac Jones, like we are married to results sometimes. The wins are what they are. Same thing with New England. Mac Jones led a New England team to a 9-4 record. Like, okay, is he taking you where you need to go? Brock Purdy could take you where to go. 49ers are 7-4 overall. I just think they show out. There are a lot of spreads. I told you I didn't like the board. There's some really big spreads out there this week that I wanted to avoid. I don't see Carolina going to San Francisco and beating them. Therefore, I'm going to lay the points somewhat reluctantly.
2 weeks in a row I've gone with the 49ers, so I'm not anti-49ers at all. I just don't know what version of Carolina we're getting. I saw them in the house against New England, and they were the shits.
Right.
Like the drizzling shits. Now they're like, 6-5?
Right.
And all of a sudden they're this plucky team. I don't want anything to do from a handicapping standpoint with trying to guess Carolina. But I'm a big believer in San Francisco, and I know that that. My gold medal selection. I don't love going gold medal picks or best bets, however you want to call it, when it's double digits in points. But I'm going Detroit -10.5 against the stinky Giants. And I know I was with the Giants last week, but here's the thing, Jay. The Lions have covered 13 consecutive games following a loss. Now, that ties them with the 2011 through 2013 Colts for the longest streak in the Super Bowl era. They've won all 13 of those games, and the Lions are 5-1 as favorites this season. It just feels like this Giants team they put together a good performance last week, right? But you get a 1-game bounce with a new head coach. Then reality starts to set in, especially as you go on the road. I mean, the Giants, after Cincinnati, the Giants, I think, have the best chance to just get pumped this week. And I think the Lions are ready to run those Giants over.
I like that a ton. I do have great respect for that Giants defensive front and think potentially sometimes they can cause some problems. Jared Goff had a really bad game that I think he'll bounce back from. I like that side quite a bit. I'm with you there. It is interesting. We talk about reacting week to week, and I really like that bounce back spot there. It's an interesting spot. And Jameis Winston, while I would have loved to stay in New York and go to church with him and hang out with him all week because he's one of my favorite humans on the planet, I think that can come back just in the way of these backup quarterbacks. They come back to earth. So, all right, I'm going to give you my gold medal selection, but afterwards, I want to talk to you quickly about the Eagles-Cowboys game.
Okay.
Because that was my gold medal selection, and I literally just removed it. So from my slate. So I'm curious to get a couple of your thoughts about that game. So my gold medal selection, I'm going with Chicago Bears -3 at home versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for me, right, like games against the spread can be tricky sometimes, right? And liking teams to win games, right? I think it's going to be Mason Rudolph. So I don't think Mason Rudolph's going to go into Chicago and Soldier Field and win the game this weekend. Aaron Rodgers has a fractured left wrist. Adam Schefter was saying maybe Rodgers didn't love that information got out. I went down a little rabbit hole. I went to CBS Sports. Shout out Brian Diardo. Terry Bradshaw, 1977, right? Played the Steelers quarterback, played the whole year with a fractured left wrist, had a big cast on it. It was hilarious watching some of the footage. So it's not his throwing hand. I think for Rodgers, maybe playing with it would have been nice if the opponent didn't know to put their helmet on it, So I don't think you're getting Aaron Rodgers this week. And the Bears just feel like they have a horseshoe up their ass, right? So I just think Ben Johnson against that Pittsburgh defense, I think he's going to be able to do a lot of different things. They've been very vulnerable in different spots. I just think it's the backup quarterback thing. Mason Rudolph was great last week. He's not going to be great again under any circumstance. And Caleb Williams, when he was walking off the field, they win 19-17 at Minnesota. He was 16 out of 32. I think he just looked very disappointed. I like the bounce back spot here against a 6-4 Steelers team that I think is not going to make the playoffs, right? I'd rather, what are the odds there? I'd rather the Chiefs. So to me, I just think the Bears get it done at home, and the Bears feel like they're really fortunate right now. They're rolling. I think they've won 3 straight. So it's a little bit of a blind play. I don't expect Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe in the Steelers defense. So I'm laying the small number at home with Chicago.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, I know you don't like Mac Jones, but San Francisco got the results they needed to when their backup was in there, and he was able to kind of keep them afloat. If Rodgers is down for a couple of weeks, will their backup, will Mason Rudolph keep them afloat? Or does he become the reason they start to lose? And then you're like, oh, gee, because San Francisco was able to kind of hold it together while what's-his-name was hurt with Mac. So if Rodgers is going to be see, there are 2 problems with the whole broken wrist on the offhand, right? Number one is taking the snap and being able to have the strength. But here's the other thing too, Jay. What do you do when you throw a ball and you get hit? What hand are you going to brace yourself with? It's your left hand and your left arm. So when it comes to keeping the quarterback safe, unless you're going shotgun and just getting the ball out super quick, with eventually people will figure out, you almost can't play the guy because you can't make it. Even if you can't make it worse, let him mistrust falling with his left hand down, and that'll start to get into the head of Rodgers real quick.
Great stuff. Couldn't agree more. So those are our picks for this week. I want to talk about this Eagles-Cowboys game, right? And I was up with John and his family, so maybe I didn't ingest quite as much of that Eagles-Lions game as acutely. So when I started to crunch some of the numbers and really look into it, I go back and forth in terms of having a feel for a game versus trusting the data. You know what I mean? And so for me, I had the Eagles -3.5 at the Cowboys because I just have a feeling the Eagles sort of show them what's up, right? So I just want to give you a few of my notes and then talk to you about the game. So, as you know, I like the Rams to beat Seattle last week and they didn't cover, so I like Philly to win this game. I don't love the number 3.5 on the road, which is part of it, right? But they dominated time possession against the Lions, but they didn't do a lot of things. They threw the ball to A.J. Brown a little bit. I think the Lions, Jared Goff missed a ton of throws. Eagles are 4-1 against the spread on the road. They've won 4 straight against the spread. That NFC is brutal. Like, I think Philly is prioritizing that 1 seed. Short week for Dallas coming off the win against the Raiders. That Philly defense is legit. They're rushing forward. They're getting pressure. They're just, Jalen Phillips is a big piece of that. Jalen Carter is just the man. Like, I love that Philly defense. But the reason I pulled it out is because I think Dallas here, I think they're 4-5-1. I think maybe they're like, if we beat Philly here, we got a shot this year. We got a great offense and pieces here. So I guess I moved them out. I'm just curious your initial thoughts on a Tuesday morning on that game.
Well, it's hard to kind of handicap the Cowboys because they've got a new defense, basically. They got 5 new players against Las Vegas, and one of them in Quinnen Williams is a real impact guy. Cowboys are 6-1 outright in ATS in the last 7 home meetings against Philadelphia, so that does kind of trend well, and Philly does play close. So I can understand it. Philly gives you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. And if you're Dallas, you're kind of hanging on right now. Just like I am. Dude, I had to do this. I got to go take a leak. I'll be right back.
Well, yeah, come back. And I'll say real quick, in terms of the Cowboys, and Cody, I was thinking about this in terms of Philadelphia, right? Because I got to the point where I didn't like them so much. They didn't even make it on the podium when they were standing at the top of the podium. It didn't even become the bronze medal game. I considered playing Dallas. Like, I feel like I almost like Dallas to win this football game, if I'm being honest with you. So, but anyway, we don't got to wait around. Who knows how long my man's going to take, right, Code? Oh, there we go. I like that. I'll look at that all day long. But I don't think we got to necessarily stick around here, Cody. That's your playoff picture this year. But let's get out of here. We did a nice clean hour, 3 minutes here on Gas. We'll see you next week, hopefully regular time, Tuesday, 11 a.m. For the great Andy Gresh and Cody Merrill, my name is Jason Anik. We appreciate you all. We love you. We'll see you next week on Gas.